New audio from the cockpit of Donald Trump's private jet reveals the pilot calmly discussing his return to the airport shortly after takeoff, when an engine failed. Trump's plane, loaned to him by a donor, was flying from New Orleans home to Florida on Saturday night. The plane had traveled around 75 miles, reaching an altitude of about 28,000 feet, before being forced to turn around after one of its engines failed, the Washington Post and Politico reported. The private plane, a Dassault Falcon 900, belonged to a donor at the event. It also had Secret Service members on board, along with other staff and Trump advisors. In the audio clip, a female air traffic control officer tells the pilot, "Try to maintain 2000. They said there was a fog blowing in, so I'm not sure how it looks for the visual, but the airport is off to your right." A male voice adds, "Down to 2000 and we do have airport for 30 Foxtrot." The pilot says, "Copy that." A male voice says, 11,308 runway 11 clear to land. Clear to land 113 Foxtrot, another voice adds. After the plane landed back in New Orleans, air traffic control adds, "Just a heads up 5352 that there will be vehicles following you down the runway." The pilot replies, "Appreciate it." Once Trump was back on the ground, the RNC reportedly found the former president another plane that belonged to a different owner for him to use to get back to Mar-a-Lago. The former president landed in Florida around 3 a.m. Hours after news broke, Trump's PAC emailed supporters asking them for funds to build a new plane. "I have a very important update on my plane, but I need to trust that you won't share it with anyone," wrote Trump in the email. "Do you remember Trump Force One?" the email asks. "Before becoming the greatest president of all time, I traveled the country in my plane, known as Trump Force One. I have a very important update on my plane, but I need to trust that you won't share it with anyone. My team is building a brand new Trump Force One." The email then gives donors the option to see Trump Force One by clicking on a hyperlink, which takes them to a page where they can donate between $5 and $2,000 to the Save America JFC PAC. That page does not contain any photos of Trump Force One. Earlier on Saturday night, Trump had given a wide-ranging speech, where he spoke on a range of topics as he struck an aggressive tone on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. "At what point do we cannot take this massive crime against humanity?" Trump asked. "We can't let it happen. We can't let it continue to happen." He jokingly suggested the U.S. should bomb the SD out of Russia with planes bearing the Chinese flag, leading conflict between the two allies while the U.S. would sit back and watch. Trump also went after NATO, calling it a paper tiger, and said the U.S. cannot just stand by while Ukraine is invaded, according to Washington Post reporter Josh Dawsey, who obtained a recording of Trump's remarks. During his presidency, Trump had reportedly said multiple times that he wanted to pull the United States out of NATO, a move that aides scrambled to counter. Trump also went after some of his foes by name during the ad race, calling Representative Adam Schiff watermelon head and George Conway a son of a BH. Former Vice President Mike Pence also gave an address at the spring meeting, after recent friction between him and Trump over the 2020 election. It's not clear if the pair spoke. Trump also said he was looking very, very strongly at a comeback bid in 2024. Trump owns at least 2 of his own private jets. His Boeing 757, worth $100 million, was what he previously referred to as Trump Force One. That plane was frequently used during the 2016 campaign, and fell into disrepair during Trump's White House years when he flew on Air Force One. The plane sat mothballed at a New York airport from 2019 until Trump announced he would repair it in 2021. The seat belts in that plane are all 24-karat gold, as are the bathtub's fixtures and other details, and the lounge area has a full cinema entertainment system. Most of the onboard space is occupied by a bedroom, guest room and dining room. While a Boeing this size could usually hold 200 people, the refurbished plane accommodates just 43 passengers and has a range of 4,100 nautical miles. The former president also owns a 9-seater Cessna Citation X, one of the fastest private jets around, with the code sign N725DT, which was used frequently during the election campaign. The plane flies at 705 miles per hour, slightly less than the speed of sound. It can fly at an altitude of 51,000 feet. Operating the Cessna does not come cheap. A short round-trip flight from Washington to Philadelphia would cost around $17,000. Trump also owns 3 Sikorsky S-76 helicopters, based in New York, Florida and Scotland, for members of his clubs and guests to use at their convenience.